Hello everybody, this is Ben Ryder from Agfa, and what we're going to be looking at is following on from our previous tutorial. We've now got a landscape and we're going to look at how we can get materials on there. So we're going to build up in various levels of complexity with this one, so that people can have a try with it and then slowly build up to get better looking textures so they understand every step of the way. So first things first, if you're looking for getting textures, I'd recommend a website like this. So this is Quixel Megascans, and this has a whole heap of textures and surfaces that you can get. If you're new to materials and everything, this may not make a lot of sense, and I hope that this will start to make more sense as we go through. But generally speaking, if you see a texture like this, you want to just sort of grab that. You'll have to sign in to download. You can use your Epic account though, so if you've already got Unreal, you can do that. And you want to download all of the different files that come with it. So what you should end up with, and if you don't have an Epic account and you can't get into that, you can just go into our share drive and have a look at the ones here. What you should end up with is these sorts of files here. Now there are more files, but the main ones you want to look at are albedo, which is a color map, normal, which is a bump map, and roughness, which is a type of specular map. So to give you an idea of what those different ones look like, we go view. Yeah, so your albedo is normally a color map. Your normal is this purple colored one, and the roughness is normally a black or white grayscale one. So in either case, if you get those into here just simply by dragging and dropping those folders in there, it will take some time, but generally we need three. We want a rock texture, a grass texture, and a soil or sort of dry grass or dirt texture. So once we have that, we can start going about creating our material. So I'm going to create one in here. Now I've done a few of these before, so I might have to call it landscape 4 or 5, but generally speaking, this is a material. Now, what is a material? A material is a type of shader group that allows us to put in different colors and different ways of telling the light how to interact with that object. As at the moment, we've just got this sort of grid on here, which is really good for us being able to see it. But there's also a lot of other information going on with this, like for example, how shadows should be cast, or how shiny it should be, how translucent it should it be transparent or completely opaque. So there's all these different things, and they're all created by the material. So if we double click on this, we should see this sort of menu here. Now to move around this menu, you roll your mouse wheel up and down, hold the right mouse button and move to move around, and left mouse button click on anything to move it around. This is a type of node editor. And as you can see here, it has no information in it so far, so it's just got a grey color. It's kind of metallic, kind of sort of shiny. It doesn't really have any much of a roughness or smoothness, so there's a lot of things here that are left blank, and as a result we just have this shape here. So we can't just drag and drop textures onto this terrain. We have to create a material and apply that instead. So we're going to start off with just a grass texture. So we're going to open it up, and the way we work this is, I'll just move this up here. We're going to go here to grass wild. I'm going to left click and drag on this albedo texture right here. And then I can just left click and drag that straight into base color there. And we will now see this will now change from a gray sort of color into a grassy sort of texture like that. But as we can see, it's really shiny and it looks very plasticky. So how do we fix that? Well, one way we can fix that is with the roughness map. So roughness determines how smooth or how rough a surface looks. So by dragging that in here and then left clicking and dragging on this RGB into roughness, we will see a slight difference. Now it's a little subtle, and the next one we look at, normal, is a bit more dramatic, but it just sort of, as you can see here, it's a bit hard to see, but you can see those light leaves, because they're a little bit shiny and wet, they're just sort of reflecting more of the light, while the ground itself is not, because it's a lot more rough. So that's generally how we sort of create the illusion of smooth and rough surfaces in game engines. Now let's look at the normal map. We're going to left click and drag that into here, and then left click and drag this up into normal, and this will make a very dramatic change. Basically what normals are doing is telling light to bounce off certain parts of it at a different angle. So it makes objects look more three-dimensional just by having this on here. So if you've ever seen details inside of a video game like a cobblestone path, chances are, rather than modeling every single brick, they've just got a normal or height map on there doing all the heavy lifting for it. So anyway, that's all we have to do to create a material. So we're just going to go save here. And it will take a little bit of time to save these materials, but once you've saved them, when you apply them, it's a lot faster. So when we go down here, So now to apply this, we've got to go back here, and you can see this has gone from grey to this. And now if we select our landscape and scroll down, we can see there's this spot here called landscape material. So much so that when I left click and drag here, it'll actually highlight where it needs to go. You just drag and drop that onto here, and it will slowly apply this. You can see it's here compiling shaders. So it's just going through that process now of calculating how light should bounce off of this whole thing, because it is quite a large sort of surface and everything. And there we go. We now have a material on it. So in the next session, we're going to look at how we can sort of make this so it's not so tessellating, how we can just sort of add a little bit more detail, and more importantly, how we can bring in other materials and textures like rock and dirt.